All right, so this is just a little follow-up to my video from yesterday about too much information. Um, and this comes from my days when I was working in architecture and in civil engineering. And it's the concept of using a detail, which is something that better describes an element. And in this case, I have an agroforestry progression detail. So if you look at the main drawing, all you see is these rows of one type of tree. And I'm just showing basically a layout, a pattern. But what I'm showing in the detail is how that pattern is going to progress. And even still, I'm still not telling you what all the species are. I'm just giving you the concept, the pattern. And I'm showing you that, in the initial years planting, you're going to have a certain density. It's all going to be small plants. They're going to establish in year 1 to 3. At some point, you're going to start thinning things out because the canopies are going to start to close in. And then at a more mature progression, you're going to completely thin out, and then you're going to plant in an understory crop or some other kind of support species. I'm not telling this client, excuse me, I'm not telling them exactly what to do. I'm telling them the concept. And what they actually do is going to depend on their needs and how the project progresses, what successes there are. Things like that. In this detail, I'm also not depicting what happens in between the rows. Excuse me, my throat's dry. I'm not depicting what's happening in all this open space in between. And that's because I don't know. In the initial stages, they want to have cattle because they need it for agricultural exemption. So in the initial phases, this might just be pasture that cattle run through from time to time. It might be something like that, just open pasture laneways. Maybe they'll seed in cover crops for different times of the year. If they choose to transition into a more intensive, maybe like a crop system, they could do alley cropping. They could do obviously the cover cropping like beans and peas and things like that. They're going to improve the soil, but they could also run in. They could do melons, pumpkins, anything low growing like that. They could even do corn. Like I said, it's whatever they want to do. I'm giving them kind of a concept, and my report is going to detail a lot of this stuff. So you can only say so much in a picture. Sometimes you have to take the time to write out a report. Like I said, for these bigger projects, you need a report. You need to describe the recommendations, describe the different elements, the phasing, different species that could be used, recommendations of what not to do, and just understand that this is at this type of project, you're in a relationship with the client. You're not really just giving them a piece of paper and saying, "Oh, have a nice day." This is a conversation. So actually, what I'm doing right now is trying to come up with a draft drawing that I can submit to them as a draft and say, "Hey, let's talk about what we have so far." And before I get too far down the rabbit hole and have to make major changes down the road, and that's another concept is client relationship. Having the conversation, not just blazing ahead all the way to the end, because some of this stuff gets really tedious and there's a lot of work involved. And if you can avoid major corrections ahead of time, you can save yourself a lot of time. You can save some frustration with the client, and I think it's a valuable way to manage a project from the design side. So anyway, this is what I wanted to kind of pick up on here, is the idea of putting in a detail. If you ever look at architectural drawings, you'll see details for everything from windows and doors, how the foundations laid out, how the roof is attached to the walls, all that kind of stuff. In this case, it's a little bit different because everything's not so precise, because in here I'm planting things generally along contour, so I don't have like a coordinate or an exact, it has to be this far apart from here, because I don't have like design trusses or engineered elements like that. That's not what this is. So I'm kind of pulling things from that side of that world of design, and kind of applying it to landscape and broader scape design. And I'm trying to share it with you guys. Let me know what you think. Obviously, I'm not the end all be all. So if you guys have suggestions or recommendations, or you see something that you think I might have missed, I welcome that kind of feedback too. I don't assume to know everything, and just understand too that this is not a finished product. This is me working along as I go, and if I see something that I want to share or that I think might be valuable, I'm going to go ahead and do that. So anyway, that's what's ripening here in the office today. I'm going to be taking a break and going back to the farm and doing some sweat time outside in a minute here, but I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.